State of Play has windmills on our minds today. Mark Eichman is a part of this, and giving us her take on streamlined regulations for windmills is Stephanie Hansen of the law firm of Young, Conaway, Stargett and Taylor. Also, Spiros Mansavinos from the Mansavinos Group. Panel, welcome everybody. And our first question, is there such a thing as streamlined regulations when you're talking about something as new as wind turbine power? What do you guys think?
Well, I think you really got to take a look at what is the end goal of getting this project moving. I mean, it's talking about energy at a national level, and alternative energy should be an important component of the nation's energy policy and where it's getting its energy. So if you're looking at multiple goals, again, putting this into place as policy, creating jobs, advancing research, yes, we need to try and do this right now and keep things moving along.
Yeah, that's the key. Keep things moving, because for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, all we've been doing is talking and not doing. And we've been promising that things will be getting done by now, and they're not. And I don't see anything on the horizon that things are going to get done.
And Delaware's behind most of the rest of the country with this, really. I mean, sometimes we fall sort of behind on the issues.
We should be on the cutting edge.
We should be, given that, off of our coast is one of the highest wind, the windiest areas in the country. But yet, 37 other states get a percentage of their energy already from renewable sources, particularly from wind. And Delaware and South, we don't. We fall in with the Deep South. We fall in, unfortunately, with Alabama and Georgia and Louisiana and Mississippi as one of the very few states that don't have wind power at this point. So we're behind. We need to catch up, and we have an opportunity to do it.
And when any politician mentions solar power or wind power, we heard it over and over again in the campaign. It's almost laughable at this point. I cannot see a day when a windmill is turning in the state generating electricity.
Well, the offshore promises, and I think part of the reason that the state's been behind is the focus has been offshore, where all that wind is, and it's a much more complicated process than putting windmills up in Texas and the plains, where it's built on ground and you can access it around the clock whenever you have to. There's so many more, there's so much harder to do. And I think part of the important thing about, as they streamline the regulating process, you kind of got to be careful, because if they get it wrong and there's problems with it, how far back does that set, not only the push for wind power offshore, but the whole process?
Right. Well, just look to Europe. Europe has a model that's worked for decades. Maybe our answers lie over there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the technology is being developed. I mean, if you look abroad in Asia, you're looking at renewable sources again with wind power. But not only is it, you're talking about creating technology. It's not only the turbines, but also how do you transmit that energy? And you're starting to see a lot of research going into, okay, we need cables that are going to be able to take that electricity offshore or even onshore and not lose electricity that's being transmitted. So there's a lot of other technology that's spinning off from this, and we're in danger, I think, nationally, of losing this technology race to other countries that are making the investments, that do have a national policy and an emphasis on alternative energy. And if we don't, again, kind of keep prodding things along, we're going to be 10 years down the road looking at this and saying, gee, we missed an opportunity.
Right. And I hope it's not 10 years. I hope it's a couple years from now.
Right.
We start getting things done. All right, the firestorm continues over the University of Delaware dropping its men's cross-country team and track and field team. It's been a few weeks now, but man, people are upset about this, and as they should.
Well, they should be. It really comes down to what are the priorities of an intercollegiate athletic program at the university. The point of Title IX is for equal opportunity for men and women in sports. Right. Many times that comes down to an issue of equal funding. And if you can't continue to support a women's sports program, then not only do you stop putting the money towards it, you have to take it away from someplace else. Which gets us to the issue where we are today at UD. You have certain sports which are revenue producing, like football, like basketball. You have other sports that are not revenue producing.
Right, and that's about it.
And
2 or 3 sports produce revenue, and everything else.
That's right. So if a university has to start cutting back funding, where is it going to cut it back from? It can either cut it back from the revenue producing sports, and then maybe you're actually taking a bigger hit than what you're actually cutting, or you take it from the non-revenue producing sports, which has a greater impact on the sport itself, on the vitality of the sport itself, because they're working with much leaner budgets. So again, we're back to the question of what is the policy of the university? What's the purpose of your athletic program? It's a university. Is it supposed to be revenue producing? Is it supposed to be an area where you get to experience a wide range of things? You get taught. What's the purpose of your university athletic program, and are your cuts in line with that purpose?
It's a state university. Do they have an obligation to have a track team for men?
I think that's up to them. But I think it's kind of all backwards. The whole point of Title IX and establishing equal for men and women. The kind of idea is that you add the women's sports, you don't cut the men's sports originally. And now it seems like the exact opposite is happening, that to make things equal, they're just cutting and cutting and cutting. And it's not just at UD. I mean, it's happening all over. And I don't know what the alternative to that is when, everybody's scraping for dollars. But it just seems like it's put the whole purpose of Title IX on its head and gone completely backwards.
Right. Maybe you have to be clear with recruits, for fringe sports like track and field. Hey, you're aware of Title IX. We may not have a program in 4 years, and I think that's where a lot of the problem is coming with the cross country and the track and field. These athletes were told that they would have a program to be a part of until they graduated, and suddenly it's gone, and it happened like that. I mean, they were warned a couple years ago, but it really happened overnight. And
yeah, I mean, I too was disappointed. I mean, hard to believe I used to run track back in high school and 1 year in college, so I really do enjoy the sport, and was very disappointed personally to see that UD made that decision. But you're right, I think it's not fair to the students who've made a commitment, to get their education at the University of Delaware and to pursue a sport that they love, and to suddenly have it so abruptly change like that. And I think that's really the saddest part of this whole thing, is that, what effects does it have on the students? And again, what does it say to potentially other potential students who are looking at University in Delaware, who that is their main sport? It's not football, it's not basketball, and want to pursue it. Are we losing some opportunities for, some good students to come to University of Delaware because of it?
Well, I wonder how much money is connected to running the track program. You'd think it'd be a cheaper sport to run, the equipment needs are fairly simple, you would think, compared to a sport like football, which is,
right,
raise a lot of money, but is also a very expensive sport to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you're talking about a lot of students would be on a track team and a cross-country team, and there's always travel, there's meals, there's shoes, there's probably a few scholarships slated for it. All these things add up. And who's going to pay for it? Do we raise the tuition once again? We're going to scream over that. So,
Well, the American Association of University Professors has taken a look at this, and kind of where they fall out is, these are the professors, these are the educators. They're saying that before you start cutting from the non-revenue producing sports, you really need to look carefully at what can you trim from the revenue producing sports, because this is, after all, an educational institution.
Right. Do we want to cut from the almost national champion Blue Hens, though?
That's the issue.
Yes. All right, another issue is should the Delaware State Police get involved with the Wilmington Police? Because, we talk about this a lot, but there seems to be more violence. People are getting a little bit concerned. Does the police force in Wilmington need some help? Other cities have tried this, and it hasn't worked out exactly.
Well, I think, Wilmington is important to Newcastle County and to Delaware. It is the economic hub of the county and the state. We need a vibrant, personally I believe we need a vibrant city going forward. I mean, you have people who are looking to live in the city, to work in the city, and they need to feel safe. So something needs to be done to kind of improve the perception that Wilmington is kind of taking a little going down the downward slope here, because, a lot of people still work in Wilmington. And again, there's a lot of momentum that's being generated. You look at Lower Market Street, what's going on down there. You look at the art loops that are going on First Friday. There are things that are happening in the city and they're important to the city, and important to the people around the city. So we need to make sure that perception that Wilmington is a safe city, is maintained. If it takes bringing in the state police to assist, it needs to be discussed. If not, then there needs to be some alternatives that are brought up. I mean, crime is a multifaceted problem. I mean, obviously law enforcement is one solution, but there are a lot of other, factors that go into it. And how do you want to put that formula together to address it in the midst of, reduced budget revenues and reduced opportunities to spend, on increase in law enforcement or increase in perhaps in social programs?
Yeah, do the state police have the resources to lend some of their, forces to Wilmington?
Well, and I think you have to look at what's happened to the Wilmington Police Department as far as it goes to budget cuts over the last several years, and now the city's looking into the possibility of getting state troopers in here when some police officers have been cut from the department over the last several years. It's kind of a tricky position for the state to be in, that Wilmington's cutting down on its officers because of its budget problems, so it wants the state to come in and provide officers. And I wonder if bringing in state police will hurt the perception of crime in the city, that it's so bad that the state police have to come in. Just in people's minds, whether it improves safety or not, the perception that Wilmington is not a safe city will probably be furthered by bringing in state police, because, it's so bad. People read in the paper,
it's like bringing in the National Guard.
Right.
And the problems that Wilmington is having go so much deeper than just bringing in more police officers. That's an obvious first step, or one step. I don't even want to call it the first step, but it's
like
one
last
step.
resort, bringing the extra police.
You're exactly right. There are so many other social and community problems that contribute to this. This has to be a multifaceted approach. I like one of the suggestions that I believe the black pastors and legislators are coming up with, which is for each of the churches to take a school, where they take the school that's closest to them and form like a partnership or a relationship with the school. That's got to work.
Right.
I mean, that's got to be better than what's going on now.
Solutions that don't cost a lot of money.
That's
or
right.
Any money.
That causes the community to get more involved with each other.
And thank you, Stephanie, Spiros, and Mark.